Okay, today we're going to do a very basic animation. We're going to call this Animate a Ball. So the first thing we're going to do is click on that HTML5 canvas. So go ahead and make that. And now let's talk about some basic things in making an animation. So the biggest thing about animation is we're going to be using this timeline, and your timeline could appear at the bottom or it could also be up at the top, but make sure it says timeline. And so now I'm going to pick the color that I want for my ball. So I'm going to pick an orange. There we go. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make a new layer down here. I'm going to call this layer palette. And I'm going to take my rectangle tool and I'm going to make a little square right there with my orange in it. Okay, so now I'm going to come down here to layer 1 and we're going to call this the ball layer. Okay, and what we're going to try to do is make our ball bounce. So I'm going to get my circle, my oval tool, and I'm going to create the ball, but I'm going to create it off screen, right? So basically I'm going to create it up over here. I'm going to hold down my shift key to make a nice circular ball. And that's where we're going to put our ball, right there. Okay, so this is where we're going to start. So the next thing I want to do is create a new keyframe. So I'm going to go over here to 1 second. And I'm going to hit F6 on my keyboard, which is create a new keyframe. Okay. I think you can also add these from one of the menus. But we're just going to use F6 for now. Okay. So I've got my keyframe right here. And what I want to do is I want to move the ball. I'm going to select it and move it. Actually, I'm not even going to do that. I'm not going to move the ball. Undo. Okay. So what we're actually going to do over here is now we're going to move one, or let's move another over here to second 2. So you see here's second 1, here's second 2. These are frames. And in video, there are 24 frames per second of video. So each one of these is like an individual picture. So I'm going to move over here to 2 seconds, and we're going to hit F7, which is create new keyframe, or create new blank. And you're like, where'd the ball go? The ball's gone. Okay, the ball's still there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this little, looks like 2 squares connected together down here, called onion skin outlines, and now it shows you where your ball originally was. So what I want to do now is we're going to create what the ball's going to look like after it hits the ground. We're going to call this the ground, right? So we want to kind of swoosh the ball because it hit the ground. Oops, undo. Need to get the whole thing. Okay, now on your timeline between your first frame at 1 second and over here at 2 seconds, right around here I'm going to pick 35 frames. I'm going to click on my timeline, right? And now I'm going to right click and I'm going to come up here and say create shape between. Okay. And what it's doing is it's creating tweens between where my shape began and where my shape is going to go. And I can expand this out. It's going to create more shapes between the two, and I can see the shapes that it's going to create. Okay. So it should start out pretty circular and then get more and more oval as it comes down here and hits on the ground. Okay. So now I can turn off my onion skinning, right? See, is this showing right where it's going to be at that 35th frame? It automatically created the image for me. So if I come back over here to frame 1, right, now I can press play. Boom. And you see that starting around shape 1 second, it starts to come in, and then it hits the ground and becomes flatter. Okay, so now what we can do is we can do the same thing again. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to get my original ball, I'm going to copy it. Now I'm going to come over here to the 3rd second, create a new blank with F7, right? And I'm going to paste my ball. I'm going to move this ball kind of over here. So I want the ball to bounce, and we're going to hit this wall now. Okay. So I want the ball to return from being squooshed to being round. Okay. And then over here at second 4, create a new blank frame, F7. Okay. Now I'm going to make a new shape of what my ball is going to look like when it hits that wall. Okay, so now what do I need to do? I got to come back over here like halfway between these two again, and right click, create shape tween. Right. And then again over here, create shape tweens. Okay, now let's see what happens when we go back over here and we hit play. Boing, boing. Okay, so you can see that what we're doing is we're creating this animation of this ball to come in from the top, come down, hit here, go across it here. So I want you to continue, move it up here, hit off of that wall, and then go out. So this wall over here is basically like there's no wall over here. Okay, so it's kind of similar to like that old game Pong, right? So that's basically what I want you to create. Your ball starts here, bounces off this wall, bounces off this wall, bounces off that wall, and then goes back out on this side. So that's what your finished animation should look like.